high drama. Did the plays get under our skin? Ooh, let's find out. First, we're going to start with Thornton Wilder's Skin of Our Teeth with William Cataldi talking about it with me. Thornton Wilder's Skin of Our Teeth follows the Antrobus family as they biblically navigate the Ice Age, war, and other disasters that allude to Adam and Eve, Noah's Ark, and Cain and Abel. Mr. Antrobus is famous in the neighborhood for inventing the wheel. His wife just tries to maintain their household with a psychopathic son, Henry, and a man-hungry daughter, Gladys, while food and heat are scarce. Everyone has to contend with their volatile maid and former Mrs. Antrobus, Sabina, who constantly complains to the family and the audience, stopping the play numerous times over the incomprehension of what the author is putting her through.
Lincoln Center Theater wraps up its spring production of Thornton Wilder's classic, The Skin of Our Teeth, at the Vivian Beaumont. Directed by Liliana Blaine Cruz, the play reminds audiences of off and off-Broadway theater, our primary focus at High Drama, what fine high-end theater can look like. It was so perfectly executed, from acting to special effects to set design, that it was like watching a multi-million-dollar Hollywood blockbuster, as the professionals at Lincoln Center Theater had polished it down to a perfect mirrored shine. The play traces the surrealistically disjointed story of the Antrobuses, husband, wife, son, and daughter, across millions of years, juxtaposing scenes from the Ice Age with early 20th century American politicking and a family trip to Atlantic City with any war at any time. Wilder seeks to show that human beings continuously repeat the same themes, the same life patterns, century after century, and to a certain extent, the observation is brilliant. The execution of the play, with its sudden stops in which the characters address the audience directly, is brilliant. Gabby Beans plays the Antrobus's maid Sabina with such brilliant aplomb that she was the star of the show. She reminded this reviewer of the late, great Eartha Kitt. Sabrina represents, at her most basic, the random destabilizing event or force in life that undermines the success of the family structure. For example, the sexy woman who catches Mr. Antrobus's eye. Such a beautiful acting job on the part of Ms. Beans deserves a Tony. Two things bothered me about this production. First is its greatest asset, its flawlessness. We want plays to be flawless, but when we get one, it disappoints. Part of what makes off and off-Broadway theater so exciting and alive is its grit and mortality. The acting here seemed bloodless and perfect. There were so many cues, and line delivery was so honed that the actors didn't have time to think about meaning. An element of passion got lost. I found myself watching for mistakes and not finding any. I want actors to care about the characters they're depicting, and that requires some breathing room for them actually to be the characters. We all strive for perfection, but when we find it, it makes us unhappy. Second, Wilder's play is unsatisfying. When I first saw and fell in love with this play, I was 17 years old. I was mesmerized. It was such an exciting event in my life. But returning to it now at 54, I was disappointed in the seemingly shallow intellectual cachet of the play. The ideas are somewhat adolescent. Now, when Wilder wrote the play, it may have been brand new and exciting, but at this point in history, the play seems obvious and much ado about nothing. Take your late teen to this play, it may thrill them, but you may be a little bored. So I give this play a mixed face plus.
It's very funny the way Mr. Antrobus is so full of bluff and bluster and comes barreling in, you know, and all these, and then you get these wonderful dinosaur puppets, you know, that are like their family pets. I see, but I just don't understand what you're saying, because it makes no sense to me. You want them to make mistakes. I want them to be in their character. They were in their characters. They acted as their characters. That is how their characters behave. You don't, it would be out of character for them to make mistakes. So that made, I don't understand what you're trying to say there.
When the characterization is perfect, the acting is perfect, then it's very plastic and bloodless, and it has no vitality. It's just, you know, like Stepford Wives or something.
Oh my gosh, I just realized, you know what you're talking about? Oh my God. What you're talking about is the way I feel when Ivo van Hove directs, because it's all, he doesn't care about acting, text, anything. It's all director, director, director. Look at me, look at me, look at me. Oh my gosh, now the penny just dropped. I understand where you are coming from. And you are, yes. So you felt Ivo van Hove, and I just felt, yay, I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
so understood. So now we can move on and go into the next century, like Skin of Our Teeth. So basically, I mean, I'm going to give it a happy face, obviously. Shana Taub Suffs at the Public Theater has ambitiously embarked on recounting the fight for the women to have a vote all the way up to the 70s, where this time the women were struggling to get the Equal Rights Amendment passed. Nowadays, they just want the basic rights of employment, fair wages, think women's soccer teams, and actually, to be the right to your body. But anyway, through it all of Suffs, we see how each generation has a firebrand that becomes the older spokesperson, afraid to make waves. And there's no bigger firebrand than Alice Paul, played by Shana Taub, who butts heads with Carrie Cat, played by Jen Colella, who heads NAWSA, National American Women's Suffrage Association, with her aide and confidant, Molly Hay. Susan B. Anthony founded NAWSA 60 years ago. She was Carrie's mentor. They have 11 states who are giving women the votes, and now they are going after New York. Carrie's way is to organize, agitate, educate, not antagonize, irritate, enervate, where failure is impossible. Alice wants to go after President Wilson by organizing a march in Washington, D.C. And this is before they did that sort of thing. Alice recruits for her radical team charismatic warrior woman socialite Inez Mulholland, Polish socialist Róża Wączkowska, who fights for the working woman and immigrants, and her old college roommate, Lucy Burns. They rope in Doris Stevens, an idealistic college student who becomes their secretary. Ida B. Wells, an African-American reporter from Chicago, wants to join in too, but not wanting to ruffle the South, they form a Negro delegation in the back of the march. As you can imagine, this does not sit too well with Miss Wells. She also has a more pressing issue of also trying to stop the lynchings. Alice is just single-mindedly after the vote, and nothing else matters to her. African-American Mary Church Terrell comes with a 14-year-old daughter, Phyllis, who is proud of all her mama's accomplishments. All of them are trying to get Woodrow Wilson in Congress to give the women the right to vote. Right by Wilson's side is his right-hand man, Dudley Malone. Karen Cat and Alice Paul and even I.W. Wells each have very different methods to achieve getting the vote. This makes for some very interesting conflicts. Shana Taub combines an exciting time in political history with some very catchy songs staged beautifully by Lee Silverman, with Raja Feather Kelly's choreography on Mima Lean's set. The finest actors of the day come together to tell the sprawling, turbulent, fascinating take on what it took to get that all-important vote, and it gets my vote of a happy face. I have to tell you, first of all, Cyrano de Bergerac is my all-time favorite play. I will go to the ends of the earth to see Cyrano de Bergerac. I'll even see things that I think will be terrible, like the Peter Dinklage Cyrano, which was god-awful terrible. But I finally have seen something that is even worse than that. At BAM, they are doing Cyrano de Bergerac, and I gotta say, first act, fantastic. Okay, he doesn't have a nose, but they refer to the nose, and they talk about the nose, and they do all the nose bits. So I'm happy. The first act, they capture the essence of Cyrano. The guy with the big nose who is in love with Roxanne, but he's afraid to tell her he's in love with her because of his nose. And then there's Christiane who's in love with Roxanne, but is afraid to tell her because he's stupid. So Christiane and Cyrano team up together to woo Roxanne. But in this case, they took the essence of Rajanu, made her a woman, and she teaches writing classes in her pastry shop. The thing is, they took all the essence of the characters and the text of the play and kept the essence. So the first act, I was happy. Now comes spoiler alert, and I might swear an awful lot here because I am so angry. This was the most egregious, disgusting, dreadful Cyrano I have ever fucking seen, okay? In the battle scene, when Christian's about to die and they're arguing over, well, who does Roxanne really love, him or, you know, Christian or Cyrano, you know, and Cyrano in the play says, oh no, she loves you. This is a noble play, but no, in this one, Cyrano and Christian have a passionate kiss. Now, Alfie apparently knows all about this. In Japanese anime, it's called Fujo, and they take random straight people and make them gay all the time. But this is not Japanese anime. This is French, 1640. And if that's not bad enough, they take away the nun scene, okay? She's in Rajnu's pastry shop. She's gone to university. She reads books. They turn Roxanne into a slut. She is now the kept woman of the quiche, who she has tried desperately to avoid having sex with all this time. And he's the one responsible for the death of her so-called beloved husband, Christian. So now she's a slut. And then the ending, I mean, first of all, he doesn't die by a log falling on his head, but being jumped in the street and stabbed. And does he get to make any of his wonderful speeches? No. First of all, Roxanne is angry at him for not telling her. And his final word is, the hero always gets the last word. No, the one thing they can't take away from me is my panache. Oh, you got me at last. You know this one, Death. I know this play by heart, fucking all, and they just ruined it. So I'm really mad. Go on, Bina.
You see, like Eva, I have always loved this play. I am a very old-fashioned medieval woman who has lived in the modern world for a very, very, very long time. And modern people try to mess up lots of classics all the time as well, most of the time. And I get very, very upset about it. I mean, lucky Eva that she at least liked the first act. You know, the moment the curtain rose and it says it says 1640. Okay, that was the big problem for me. And then nothing was like 1640 for me, nothing, no, nothing at all. Even the sensibility of the Cyrano was gone. I felt I was in Greenpoint, or I was in Harlem, or I was in the East Village, and there's some rap kind of thing, amateur doing some rap and some spoken word. You know, like I do a lot of poetry readings, and they always call it spoken word. Word should be spoken. I mean, like, I don't even know that word. Like, why did you say spoken word? Word is like
the rapper.
You write words or you speak the words. Spoken word, but written word. Do you also say written word? Okay. So right away I just said, first of all, if they made this play into this rap, the street theater, you know, theater for the new city does better street theater actually in a way, and not you keep thinking about all the other things, you know, tamasha is called, like this mela. This is like a bazaar. This is like a with this sell trinkets, you know. So I said to myself, they should say, I am, this idea was that, but it is not really Cyrano. So, okay, that having said that, after that, nothing really worked for me. And Roxanne, who's supposed to be so beautiful, everybody's so much in love with her. She is like a woman from 1640, give her a nice dress. It doesn't matter, you know, she is like, you have the money, it's the BAM, it's, you know, Bloomberg is sponsoring it. Beautiful dress at least, so I can be a little attracted towards her too. Okay, so you know, the nothing was, the costumes were horrible. Yeah.
I mean, I got, like I said, I got in the first act, I got the essence of Cyrano, and which, you know, came across more in the second act, and that's when I got really angry. It's like, I'm like, okay, as long as you keep the essence, but then they threw it out the window.
Yeah, I know, but the thing
And the
is,
people in the elevator agreed with me. I was so angry. I just burst out into angry tirade in the elevator. I never do
the
that.
people said
And
you are not alone.
Everyone is agreeing with me.
You are not alone. They all agreed with you. So you see, you are not alone. Yeah, it's an unhappy face for me.
Actually, I will do this. I will give it a happy face with first act. At intermission, leave, because then you're going to get the meanest, angriest, unhappiest face you ever saw in your life.
Samuel S. Hunter's A Case for the Existence of God, directed by David Cromer, has two men who knew each other in high school but weren't friends at all. They have 2-year-old daughters who go to the same daycare center, and the white guy who was very popular in high school but was a bit of an asshole has a family history of mental instability and poverty, wants to get a loan so he could build a house on land that his great-grandparents owned. The other guy, black and gay, was not popular in high school, but now has a decent job as a mortgage broker, and he's trying to help the guy get the loan. The two men, who are very different, begin to bond, and both of them have very precarious relationships with their daughters. They're afraid they could lose them. The white guy, because he just got divorced and his wife may want custody, the black guy is fostering his daughter with the intention of adopting her, but her aunt may take her away. This was really a wonderful, very realistic play about two very different men who have some shared situation and can bond. And I just thought it was great. Happy face for me.
This play is so good that the New York Drama Critics have named A Case for Existence of God the best play of 2021-22. And this tells you right there, this is not your run-of-the-mill play, but packs a real wallop. And from Mark Savitt's reaction play, you don't have to be a parent to appreciate the bond a parent has with a child in order to relate to this play. But I, on the other hand, as a parent, know that constant fear, even without obstacles, that anything could happen to take your child away. And this is an unthinkable horror that could grip anyone about anything that is precious to them. Even losing a phone can send someone into a tailspin if it is filled with photographic memories that seem irretrievable. The strength of the acting of Kyle Beltran and Will Brill is especially felt in sustaining this powerful play that sometimes confusingly jumps through time and place. I am so riveted in their conversations that I just ignore locale and time and focus on their individual and collective worries. This is also about a study, not just in fathers' relationship with their daughters, but how a friendship develops with no romantic complications. They recognize the worth in each other when the rest of the world turns its back on them. Everyone may come up with their own case for the existence of God, a beautiful sunset, a rainbow, a child's laugh, a baby animal's antics, finding one's soulmate. Here I think that if only one person believes in you, then you can believe in the existence of God. But you may find another interpretation, as this is such a nuanced play, and I give this a happy face too. Irish Rep is presenting two delightful short plays by J.M. Synge. The first is The Tinker's Wedding. Sarah Casey is determined to marry her tinker boyfriend, Michael Byrne, who has a mother who is fond of the drink. But the priest won't do it without proper payment. Schemes, drink, arguments ensue. The second is In the Shadow of the Glens. Nora Burke welcomes a tramp into her home as she is all in a tizzy because her husband just died and she could use the company. A neighboring farmer stops by as well. Recriminations and surprises are revealed as they discuss the corpse.
You see, the Synge is one of the greatest playwrights, died very young, age 37. You cannot imagine that this is the man who wrote this fabulously deeply thought, sensitive plays. In the first play, the Tinker's Wedding, which is tinkers in Ireland is the gypsies, you know, and these people are like on the roadside, and then just the one woman wants to get married to also a tramp kind of thing, it's a gypsy too, and the priest just makes such a big fuss. He wants 10 shilling gold plus the tin thing, which I didn't understand why he wanted. But Terry Donnelly, one of the greatest actresses, doing always Irish Rep. I love her. She was so fabulous. She comes and creates some havoc in the whole story and just messed the whole thing up. And it was, the both plays were so enjoyable. And one more thing I have to say about this, because I heard every word so clearly, though they have a heavy brogue kind of accents. And I was so happy. Maybe it is because we were sitting in the front row or something, but everything was just very enjoyable, very clear, fabulous, happy face from me.
Happy face for me too, lots of fun. Gabiana Insauti, Jose Daut, and Inaki Ricarte from Calunca Teatro, Spain, have brought us this wonderful puppet show called Andre and Dorine, who are a cantankerous elderly couple who seem constantly annoyed by each other. Andre attempts to type his epic novel while Dorine disturbs him with her cello playing. They stop sniping long enough when their son comes home. As the play progresses, we see how they first fell in love, but then she gets Alzheimer's and what that does to her husband and son. It is amazing how much emotion Jose Dahl, Gabriel Insanti, and Idukar Ramo were able to convey while wearing these exaggerated masks created by Gabin Insanti. The music of Yao Casares was instrumental in adding to the mood of the piece. And I apologize, all these names this show are so difficult to do. Inaki Ricarte directed this at a rather slow build to the inevitable conclusion. However, being the old softie that I am, I was still quite moved by the end. Laura Gomez built a South that felt like a real home. What keeps a couple together long after it seems the love is gone? But is the love ever gone? This universal love story came all the way from Spain and is well worth catching, and I'm giving it a happy face minus.
Hitler's Tasters by Michelle Kodos Brooks and directed by Sarah Norris is based on a true event about these young women who are given the honor of possibly dying for their country by tasting Hitler's vegetarian food before he got to eat it. And I thought the premise was fascinating. I thought the idea was great, but it's done in such a contemporary style with the girls being very vain and doing selfies and dancing in these dances that had nothing to do with the period. So I just couldn't get involved with them, even though they were quite good at differentiating like a real queen bee whose father is an important person in the regime, and another one who's very fragile and picked on by them, and then a sort of intellectual girl, and one person mysteriously disappears and is replaced by another taster. But I just couldn't get into it. I know other people really loved it. Eva forced me to see it because she thought it was one of the most wonderful things, but it just didn't work for me.
And Ed Rubin agreed with me. I mean, I found this story about young German girls. They eat, they wait to die, they eat. It's a fascinating study of what that does to a person and how they all cope. And the acting was so superb. And yes, they might have some cliche personalities. And yes, they make it all Valley Girl to show that, you know, to really make you feel like, you know, relate to these young girls. And but all that changes as the play develops because we learn more about them and their lives. And the fact that they feel it's an honor to serve their father, you know, in this way. And it's just, to me, it's just such a brilliant point of history that I knew nothing about. And I just thought this was just incredible, the way they did it. And the way they changed the set with the food and everything. I mean, it was cleverly directed, cleverly acted. I mean, so I'm giving this a major happy face.
And for me, it was mixed.
I just want to mention that our newest contributor, Howard Tucker, A Fan's Perspective, he did his perspective on Algonquin Arts Theater's Sondheim's Into the Woods. You know, the familiar fairy tale figures go into the woods to fulfill wishes and get more than they bargained for. And he thought this wonderful production was a true delight. You've got till May 22nd to see it, and you can read what he had to say about it on the Facebook page. He enjoyed it immensely. Also, I want to bring to your attention that Mrs. Doubtfire is now closing May 29th. And considering it, you know, Rod McClure deservedly got a Tony nomination, and there were a lot of other Tony nominations too. It's a wonderful musical. If you haven't had a chance to see it yet, rush to see it, because everyone who sees it just goes out of that theater having the best time of their life. And if you know the movie, it's about this father who loves his kids so much, he pretends to be a nanny, dresses as a woman in order to be near his kids. And he finally, you know, grows up, and it takes a woman for him to grow up and become a mature man. It's just beautifully beautifully done. The music is fabulous. The choreo, everything about this is so wonderful. So if you can, go see Mrs. Doubtfire before it closes. Without a doubt, it's wonderful. And don't forget to go to our Facebook page, because I list all the stuff that we didn't get a chance to talk about. There's some reviews that we reviewed that closed before we talked about it on the show. Anyway, there's so much still to see on the Facebook page that we don't get on the show. But still, there's something even better coming up. And that is, of course, our very own Jay Michaels with his indie influencer. And what is he going to talk about and tell us about that's going to be a treat for us to see?
This is Jay Michaels. I'm your indie influencer here on TV's High Drama. And this is my June is Busting Out All Over annual report. Starting late May and going until Independence Day, how fitting, is an amazing group of programs at some of New York's most prominent off-Broadway houses. At Open Jar Studios, Doug DeVita's Fable, about the backstage backstabbing it took to create the musical Gypsy, has two special showings, May 26 and 27. At Theater for the New City, Existence, David Willinger's multimedia exploration of existentialism, opens June 9. At Theater Lab, we get a bit spicier with Sex Work, Sex Play, Keitha Gentis's clever parable about love, lust, and sex in the 21st century. Two special showings, June 8 and 9, and then going off to regional theater for a little bit. At the venerable Playwrights Horizons downtown, composers Giacchetti and Josephson take us inside the lives of a group of mental patients in a special showing of Relapse, the musical, directed by two-time Tony nominee Joey McNeely. June 16 and 17. At the iconic American Theater of Actors, Ken Conklin directs a rousing run of Shakespeare's Merry Wives of Windsor. The fun starts June 22. And on the legendary Theater Row, All Rise, a doubleheader of plays about hope and faith by Kate Gill, starting May 26. A doubleheader of plays about the African-American experience by Michael Higgins, starting June 23. Carol W. Berman's play, it's not a doubleheader, but it's called Double Blind, and also starts May 26. Ripple Effect Artists' hard-hitting exploration of mental illness, Gideon's Knot, premieres June 16, and Roland Jewett's homage to the Twilight Zone, Saki Tells All, opens the month on June 2 with Jan Ewing's dynamitely dark drama, Ivan VI, premiering at the Peg at the end of the month. And every week in June, you are invited to visit the Rose Room for the epitome of bohemian chic in Midtown Manhattan, an event not to be missed. The cup runneth over for June, my friends. Let's get ready for July. This is Jay Michaels. I am your indie influencer on television's High Drama.
Our next show is going to be June 4th, and maybe we'll have some Broadway shows to review and other things, but maybe we'll talk about the Tony Award nominations and what we think our take will be on it. I'm just so happy the Tonys are back. The Honor Critics Circle is back. Everything's back. Yay!